Hey yo, what's good? It's your boy Mixtape Moth, and today I'm gonna hit y'all with a review of the new AZ album entitled Do or Die 2. Let's get to it. Alright, so AZ, the Visualizer, is a criminally underrated veteran MC coming out of Brooklyn, New York. Now, most of us first heard AZ shock the rap world with his legendary verse on Nas's Life's a Bitch in 94. The following year, AZ would drop his classic debut album, Do or Die, in the fall of 1995. Most critics would argue that Do or Die is, in fact, AZ's magnum opus and the most impactful album in his discography. While it does not get as much universal praise as Only Built for Cuban Links and It Was Written, Do or Die is a very significant album in the mafioso subgenre of the mid to late 90s. So 26 years later, AZ has returned with Do or Die 2. This has been a highly anticipated project since around 2010 after AZ announced that it was coming out. So basically, for a decade and some change, AZ has alluded to the album being nearly complete, but now the real thing's finally here. Although the unfortunate reality with sequel albums is that in most cases they tend to typically disappoint. Now, if any rappers from the 90s era came close to delivering a worthy sequel to their classic album, it would have to be Nas with Stillmatic and Raekwon with Only Built for Cuban Links 2. While Cuban Links 2 was not flawless, it managed to successfully capture much of the essence found on the original. The grimy mafioso mystique was very much intact on the sequel. So the logical follow-up question would be, on Do or Die 2, does AZ recreate the magic that was found on his debut album? And the answer to that is no, but I'm not even sure if he tried to, given the sonic direction and the lack of mafioso themed tracks, but still it was entitled Do or Die 2 nonetheless. But I'll get into the overall wrap up after my track by track breakdown. Now, aside from this being the sequel, this is actually AZ's first album in close to 12 years, which doesn't even sound possible that he has been absent with an album for that long. This new project contains 12 tracks and one bonus song with a length of approximately 42 minutes. The features include Jaheim, Idris Elba, Rick Ross, Conway, Lil Wayne, Dave East, and T-Pain. In terms of the production, AZ recruited Bink, Baby Paul, A1, The Alchemist, Buck Wild, Pete Rock, The Heatmakers, Zarkeys, and Rockwilder. But with that being said, let me go ahead and just hit y'all with this track by track breakdown. The opener, Conversations with God intro, sets forth a completely different tone than the organized crime theme intro with Nas on Do or Die. I know it's probably really unfair to compare the two since AZ is obviously in a different headspace in 2021, but I have to admit, I was initially very underwhelmed with this intro featuring Idris Elba. A couple of listens later, I had to accept the fact that AZ was going with a completely different direction here, so it is what it is. Now, track 2, Just For You, kicks this album off in an ultra smooth way. Now, it couldn't be more further removed from the dark and grimy sounds of Uncut Raw from his debut. Instead, this has a very lush and luxurious arrangement from Bink. It's a pleasant and well-produced track. I have to admit it, even though I had personally hoped for something a little harder to set it off. But again, accepting this for what it is, it's technically a good song. I do like the For You vocal scratches on the hook, which helps to merge the luxurious aesthetic with an old school hip hop flair. AZ's bars are as sharp as ever and his flow is still timeless. Some standout lines include, I lack limits, overachiever, the home of the believers, live since Latifah, ice cold with the divas, rolling Chiba, puffin' rapping the beats, in broad daylight they body old boy, what happened is deep. All in all, it's a solid song, even though I didn't expect him to open up the album on such a laid back note. Track 3, The Wheel, featuring Jaheim, also has a smooth and grown man rap vibe. Jaheim does kind of dominate with a longer hook, but it was a well sung and catchy chorus. The message of the track is for folks to not get caught up in life's vicious cycle, whether it be the street life or drug addiction. You got to stay grounded and be on point. AZ's bar work here is sublime. Luxury car living, I'm island hopping, the album dropping, processing the accolades of life, calculating the hate, evaluating the price, and I raise hell when your future's as fresh as your sneakers, you age well from the beeper era of reefer puffers that make bail. After this is Keep It Real, produced by Baby Paul. So this contains the same Bobby Caldwell What You Won't Do for Love sample that was used on Kool G Rap's Blowing Up in the World, also from 1995. I found the sample choice to be great, as I loved it on the G-Rap track as well. I feel this is the first song on the album that tapped into the sonics found on the original. It just gave me that nostalgic 1995 feel. And you can't really go wrong with this particular Bobby Caldwell sample in general. I also like AZ's flow change up and rhyme scheme. The only thing that I wasn't too fond of was the hook from Kifa, who had brought a modern day sing-songy cadence to the chorus. On track 5, Never Enough, AZ teams up with Rick Ross for a real luxury rap experience. And it wasn't a shock to me that AZ would seek a feature from Ross, considering that one of AZ's most popular singles, Sugar Hill, was one of the original luxury rap singles of its day. And we know that Ross has been the face of that style of rap for years. So this collaboration makes sense, even though I know some purists hate Rick Ross. Now, as far as the instrumental here, Baby Paul provides a jazzy, soulful, and saxophone-backed beat. There's what sounds like a bird tweeting and a whistling sound effect. Yeah, it's a pretty and lavish instrumental. The hook from Mora K is solid, but it took me a few listens to adjust to her style of singing. Yeah, I actually thought this was a good song, although I kind of wish AZ would have given us 2 verses. Track 6 is the single Different, which was released close to a year ago. The beat from A1 is the type of dreamy soul production that AZ has rapped over for years. So this is like the AZ beat of AZ beats, especially in the 2000s. That being said, do I think this beat is as interesting as some of the smooth instrumentals found on albums like Undeniable, G.O.D., or even the bonus songs from the Do or Die 15th Anniversary Edition? No, I do not. Yes, I like the lyrics and his flow is definitely on point, but this just feels like a standard AZ song, nothing really Do or Die worthy. Now, the following track, Ritual, featuring Lil Wayne and Conway the Machine, is a real highlight. We get this spacey and futuristic production from The Alchemist. It's the only real banger, or one of the few tracks with much of a pulse on the album. AZ's verse was solid and Conway's was decent, although I thought Conway's delivery was a little lackadaisical here. But it was Lil Wayne who was the star of the show. Yeah, that is right. On an AZ album in 2021, it was Lil Wayne's verse that was the most talked about part of this album. Who would have thought? There is some connection that Lil Wayne has clearly found with East Coast MCs as of late that has inspired him to go so hard, because I feel he has been 3 for 3 with the last batch of featured verses on East Coast album. Wayne paid homage by saying, I was bumping AZ in the firm when you was a worm. The shit is hard. Immediately after is Blow That Shit with Dave East. The beat from Buck Wild is sparse, but very classy and fitting for Dave East and AZ to paint pictures of the luxury life. Now, does this Buck Wild beat do as much for me as Ho Happy Jackie? Absolutely not, but it's a solid soundscape and a decent enough track overall. The subsequent song, Bulletproof, had great potential to be a standout relationship R&B track, but unfortunately it was diminished by an underwhelming hook. I feel AZ's relationship bars and storytelling was very effective, and I did like the track Masters inspired production from Bink, but this one fell short, unfortunately, due to the hook. Track 10 is Check Me Out, produced by the legendary Pete Rock. So this has that nostalgic mid-90s production flavor that I'm sure many heads will appreciate. I love the Nas "Check Me Out, Y'all" vocal scratches on the hook. Now, this was clearly an attempt to recreate the magic found on the AZ and Pete Rock rather unique collaboration from the debut. While I respect the attempt and actually like this song, I didn't find Pete Rock's production to be quite as remarkable as on Rather Unique. Right after is Time to Answer, produced by the Heatmakers. Now, this beat is serviceable, but I don't consider the instrumental to be as attractive as some of the beats Arsonist gave to Jim Jones as of late. The lyrics are great and the concept of the song is dope, but I can't say that I love this instrumental. The last official song is Found My Niche, produced by Czar Keys. This record actually came out a year ago and it was accompanied by a really dope video of AZ visiting the project. So the visuals had me hoping that this album would have more of that hardcore sound. I know this track is a little older, but I feel it's one of the best songs because the beat is a little darker and punchier. It makes you feel the energy of the streets, unlike some of the falling asleep on a yacht type energy. Then the album wraps up with the bonus song What's Good featuring T-Pain, and my only question is, what was really good with AZ thinking that T-Pain would be a good feature to obtain? Yeah, I mean, this is the one for sure whack and trash song on the album. It's just not good, no matter how you may want to spin it. Overall, I give this album a rating of a 3 to a 3.5 mics. It was a fairly good return album for AZ as he had been absent on the album front for quite some time. But it's not a worthy follow-up to his classic debut album. It's just not. And the main reasons are because it lacks the hunger, the sense of urgency, the captivating production, and most importantly, the mafioso imagery that was the centerpiece of Do or Die. Now, obviously, in 2021, AZ is not the same young and hungry upstart who was fresh off the block. And that's perfectly fine. And I'm a realist, so I understand that. And technically, he really doesn't need to prove himself to any of us as he is firmly cemented as one of the all-time greats. But when you decide to name your album Do or Die 2, then I at least expect some slight semblance of carryover sonically and thematically to the original. For folks who love this album, I can respect that. But for me, I feel this project lacks the direction and cinematic energy found on the original. To me, this just felt like a collection of smooth AZ songs with an occasional nod to the original, but nothing really too different from any AZ album that we've heard since the 2000s. Now, to be completely fair, AZ's pen game is still A1. His flows are still timeless, and overall, he's still rapping at a very elite level. So from a lyrical perspective, he definitely delivered on this album. As much as I love and respect AZ as an artist, I did find this project to be a bit of a disappointment at the end of the day. Although it is great to see AZ return with a new album nonetheless. My favorite tracks include Just For You, The Wheel, Keep It Real, Never Enough, Ritual, Check Me Out, and Found My Niche. Let me know what you thought about this album in the comment section below. It's your boy Mixtape Moth. I'm signing out, but be sure to hit that like button and please subscribe. As always, it's peace and blessings. AZ Do or Die 2, 1.